Hey guys, welcome to the Two Wheeled Rider YouTube channel. My name is Mario Orsini, and today I am back with another motorcycle review. So today I have the brand new for 2018 Honda Goldwing Touring. Big thank you to Tim Brook Honda in Winchester for loaning me this bike out to review today. Be sure to check out their information. I'll put it on the screen and I'll also link it in the description below. So as I do with all my motorcycle review videos, we're gonna start out with some of the major specs on this bike. Then I'm gonna take you around and show you some of the features and some of the cool little knickknacks and stuff on it. We're gonna put Kristen on the back of it so you can hear what the passenger's point of view is. And then I'm gonna give you my thoughts on what I like and what I dislike about this brand new bike. This bike is equipped with an 1832cc liquid-cooled opposed six-cylinder. It does have overhead cam design. The numbers I've seen say it's putting out about 126 horse and about 125 foot-pounds of torque, so it is up slightly over the previous edition. This bike is also equipped with ride-by-wire. I'll show you all the different fuel maps and choices we have on that here once I start going over the features. So I picked up the manual model today, so this is a 6-speed manual. It does have a reverse. The reverse is slightly different than it was before. It no longer runs off the starter. It has its own separate motor. It's all going back to the rear wheel via shaft drive. I have not ridden the new DCT model. I will be getting that bike here pretty soon to test, so in the meantime, don't ask me any questions because I haven't ridden one. Up front, this is something that's brand new. We have the double wishbone suspension from Showa. I'll talk about a little bit more about that in detail later on and what I think about it. I think you got 4.3 inches of travel up front. In the back of the bike, we also have Showa components. We have 4.1 inches of travel with their ProLink suspension setup. Back up to the front of the bike for just a moment. We do have 320 millimeter disc. Those are 6 piston calipers up front, and it is computer-controlled ABS up front. Moving to the back of the bike, it is single disc. I think it's 316 millimeter disc, and it has a 3-piston caliper. This is a big bike. It does need a big brake setup on it to get it slowed down and stopped. Speaking of big, on the back of the bike, you do have a 16-inch tire. It is 200 width, I believe, from the factory. It comes with a 255/16. Up front, you have a 130 width tire, and that tire size is 130/17/18. It is an 18-inch rim up front. Just a couple of more quick things before we move on to show you the features. We've got a 29.3-inch seat height, so a relatively low seat height. You have 5.1 inches of ground clearance. You have a 5.5-gallon fuel tank, and this specific model, the way it's set up right now, comes in at a curb weight of 833 pounds. Honda has equipped the bike with LED headlights both on low beam and on high beam. Here's a shot at the rear taillight, and as you can see, you also have an amber colored turn signal integrated into that taillight. Now let's take a look at some of the stuff you'll see here in the cockpit area, starting with this whole display setup. You obviously have your speedometer over here. I'll show you about this screen in a minute. You have your tachometer over here. You can see you have a really big gear indicator that also lets you know what mode you're in there. I'm in tour mode. It lets me know I'm on a bit of an incline. There's all kinds of idiot lights built in. This also lets you know where your suspension settings are, what your coolant temperature or engine temperature is at the moment. We come over here on the left-hand side, we can toggle through. We have outside air temperature. We have what your cruise control is currently set at. We'll go down to this one. We have the total miles and then 2 trip odometers. Down here, if the bike were running right now, we'd be able to see the front and rear tire pressure of the tires through the tire pressure monitoring system. And then that also lets me know my fuel range, how much further I can go. And if you look right here, you can see this is your fuel gauge. All right, so I'm gonna try to give you guys a wide enough shot so you can see all of what I'm about to do. But if I hit the home screen, it brings up quite a few different options. I have audio source. This bike does have navigation. I have vehicle settings. I have audio setting, and I have Apple CarPlay. I can access it through this toggle while I'm not moving, and you can either twist it forward or backwards, and you can also use it as a joystick to move around. I currently have my phone hooked up right now, so we can go into Apple CarPlay. We can see that I'm playing some Luke Bryan right now. If I come down here and I hit this button, it should, there we go. But I don't want to get flagged for that on YouTube. So anyway, we can also scroll over and go to our text messages. This is something cool because it's my understanding with the navigation on this, you can only set it while the bike's sitting still. But if you're in Apple CarPlay, you can change your navigation whenever you want because it's separate from the Honda navigation system. So that's just something to be aware of. And if I hit back out, you can see I can get to all my apps. All right, so sticking with this whole TFT display here, you do have audio source. You've got an FM radio built in. You can either play it through these speakers. You get speakers on the back, or you can play it through your Bluetooth headset. Go back out to here. This bike is outfitted with navigation, but I'm pretty sure you can only put in points and stuff while the bike is stationary. It won't let you get into the screen while the bike's moving. You do have phone if your phone's hooked up. You also have Apple CarPlay, which I actually have disabled right now, but I showed you earlier. You have vehicle settings, and this is where I don't know why you would want to turn off auto cancel turn signals, but you can. You have suspension preload for 1 up plus luggage, 2 up plus luggage. You can set different units here. That's your traction control. You can turn it completely off if you want. You have your dimmer set here. How you want your illumination set. You also have a couple other settings here. This one, some of these aren't options that are on this particular bike. And then you have audio settings where you can set your sound setting, general setting, Bluetooth pairing, you know, stuff like that. So those are all the things available on your TFT display screen. Staying here in the cockpit, these mirrors do fold in on both sides of the bike. Let's start out, well, let's go here for a second. This is your selector button, and that's what's going to control where this arrow's at over here. And this is your set button that lets you toggle. You do have your information button here that's going to give you some additional information on your fuel consumption. You can set a timer on it, things like that. This button here is your audio. That'll allow you to toggle back and forth from your Bluetooth headset to the speakers on the bike. You do have heated seats. This is for the rider seat. Heated grips. This is obviously only the rider has grips on the bike. So moving over here to the left side of the handlebar, we do have a passing light that will flash the high beam. See right there. And also if you want it on high beam, just flick it out. You have your volume control. This is something new. Before the windscreens were stationary. Now we have an adjustable windshield. That's all the way up. And there we go back to all the way down. Voice command here if you're using some sort of Bluetooth enabled device. Horn, you guys ready for this? That's one loud horn. Here's your home button, and most of this right here echoes what's here. This is just easier to control while you're going down the road, so this allows you to toggle through and select things. This takes you back home. This is your back button. This source button here, you can actually hold in on it, and that'll kill the music if you need to for whatever reason. Turn signal switch down here, they are auto canceling. If you're in neutral, you can put it in reverse, and then this little button right here will allow you to back the bike up in reverse. Over on this side, this is your kill switch, also your start button. You have your hazard lights here. You have your cruise control. This turns it on, this sets it or resets it, resumes, accelerates. And then you have your mode button. If we look up here, all we have to do is toggle up or down, and we can see our different modes: economy, rain, touring, and sport. All you need to do is set it in there. Now, if you're going down the road, you do need to let off the throttle in order for it to change. Otherwise, it'll just sit there and flash, but it takes a split second, and it'll put you in the different fuel mapping in different mode. Sticking with the cockpit area, we have a little storage compartment right here. Open that up. You can see that's where I've got my phone, and my phone is actually plugged in to enable Apple CarPlay. And this, you may have noticed there's no key up here. You just turn this little knob. This is your fob. It also has a remote on it to open up your trunk and your bags and stuff like that. If this is not within proximity, you will not be able to start the bike. So it gives you a nice little storage compartment. You notice there's no cap here, or there's no key here for the gas cap. You actually come over here on the side of the bike, hit this little thing. You got another storage compartment, and then hit this button, and you can see it's allowed me to get into my gas cap. Now, if you're worried about somebody opening this up while you're not around, don't worry, because this is also proximity enabled, and if the fob's not within the area, it will not allow you to open this up, so no one can get into your fuel tank, at least not without prying this open or something. Something else you may notice from up in the cockpit area is the absence of a fork. We'll talk more about that later. And then the last thing I want to show you, this is a little air deflector that can be either set down or up to further deflect air back. That way you can limit the buffeting to however you want. If you're riding two up, your passenger does have a heated seat back here as well. They get to control that. You'll be able to see up here if it's been turned on, but you won't necessarily see what level it's on. So if they were to happen to leave it on after you got off the bike, you'd at least be warned up here on the dash. Your passenger also does have some pretty good size floorboards back here, but we'll get Kristen's thoughts on it here in a little bit so you can hear what she has to say about the passenger comfort on this bike. If you want to get into the saddlebag, just push this little button here. It'll drop open nicely. Of course, bag liners are available for this. Just want to give you a quick look inside. You have your owner's manual and stuff back here. They're not quite as large as I was expecting them to be for a bike this size. I know there's been some complaints about it, but I think these are, on the sides, are rated at 30 liters of capacity, and then your trunk, which I'll show you here in a second, is rated at 50 liters. So there's a little button right down here that opens up your trunk that will flip open. You can see I've got all my camera gear and riding gloves and stuff down in here. Decent sized trunk. It's rated at 50 liters. Up to 20 pounds can be held in here. Just wanted you to see what the capacity is and what it looks like inside. Now the good news is if you get one of these bikes, it's almost impossible to lock your fob in the saddlebags or the trunk. If it senses that it's in one of those things, it will not shut. Now if you continue to hold your hand down on it, after 3 tries, it actually will end up locking. So anyway, locking your fob in one of these bags shouldn't be much of an issue.
Hey guys, so I'm back again with a review on the 2018 Honda Goldwing, and overall, I have to say it's a really nice bike. Not the most fun I've ever had, but absolutely comfortable. This is like the Cadillac of comfort for highway cruising. It's got a lot of great legroom. Easiest bike I've ever been on and off of. And also, it's nice to have some really good support under your feet the entire ride. I could sit back, enjoy the ride, and not have a care in the world. So the only thing I have left to say on it is that this really is for a great long ride touring bike. The back roads, I wasn't so impressed with how the shocks absorb the bumps and the ruts in the road. That could have been a little better, but overall for a passenger, this is a really comfortable bike.
Alright guys, we've gone over the specs. I showed you a lot of the features the bike has to offer, and you also got the passenger's perspective from Kristen. Now it's time for my thoughts on the bike. First off, let's start out with the fact that it's a Honda, so it's got the normal fit and finish and quality you're used to in a Honda product. It's not going to let you down there. When it comes to the engine on the bike, and I'm going to nitpick some stuff later on. I'm going to tell you before we wrap up some things I don't like about this bike, but for the most part, the engine is silky smooth. It revs up fine. It's got pretty good power throughout. It's got gobs of torque down low, and you can ride it kind of lazily and not shift much if you really don't want to. When it comes to handling, first off, let's, elephant in the room, it's an 833 pound bike. It's not going to handle like a sport bike, but it does handle much better than I expected it to. I do have a few things to nitpick on the handling that I'll talk about here in a few moments, but you do have plenty of confidence going into a corner. It'll hold the line. It flicks over much easier than I was expecting it, and it's actually, for its size, a really good handling motorcycle. The braking is one of those things that really shines on this bike. The brakes on it are superb. I don't think you could ask for any more braking power. I don't think you need any more braking power. Brakes are excellent. The Goldwing's one of those bikes that is designed to eat up miles, be it on the interstate or highways or whatever it is you're riding on. And this thing's got great comfort to it. I mean, you got a nice comfortable seating position. You're upright, easy reach to the bars, really no pressure on your lower back. The option of putting some highway pegs on here would be nice, and I'm sure Karaoke or somebody's going to be coming out with them soon, just to give you an alternate position for your legs to be in. But you can't really complain about comfort, and the windscreen does an excellent job. You can see it kept that bug off of my face. I've ridden it down the interstate all the way up. I've ridden it all the way down. I've ridden it in between. It comes down to the amount of air that you want to be able to get through, but you should be able to find a setting that's going to work well for you. So once again, I have not ridden the DCT. I'm out on the 6-speed manual. I don't have any negatives about the manual transmission. It shifts really smooth. Clutch engagement is easy enough. And all in all, a good transmission on the bike. All right, so basically I said you got predictable handling, excellent brakes, good power, transmission shifts smooth, all day long comfort. It's not a perfect motorcycle though, and there's some things I don't like about the bike. The first one isn't anything I can really do about, but if you're used to riding a bike with a traditional fork on the front, this thing jumping around down in here is going to freak you out at first. And that was the first thing I noticed when I got on the bike. It was one of those things where I was like, what the hell? Oh yeah, that's right, it's that wishbone suspension up front. Just not used to seeing that. Freaked me out a little bit. The other thing about the suspension, you notice I'm riding it in preload setting 2 up. and that's because I tried it in single, plus luggage. It's just too soft for my liking. And I even took it down the interstate and stuff like that. It was too soft in any sort of setting, especially if you're on a back road and you were looking for it to handle a little bit better. It was just diving way too much for me. So I stiffened it up a little bit. Kristen actually said the same thing. She thought the suspension was too soft, and I said, well, we could have tried it in one heavier setting, but I wanted to try it in, you know, what it was supposed to be preset for. And yeah, just find the suspension a little soft on the bike. All right, so something that started out as a minor annoyance, but it's really irritating me now is this information over here. It's all good information. It would have been nice if a voltmeter was included, and if there is one, I haven't been able to find it. That aside, that information is written entirely too small. That's something I should be able to see on this screen up here, and I can't. Maybe there's some sort of software update or something they can do to make that available, but as it is right now, you know, that's stuff I want to be able to see, and it's tough to find there on this big giant dash. Now, another big thing, first off, I do like the gear position indicator. That's awesome, and I like being able to see what mode I'm in very easily. But what I don't like is this tack. Almost every motorcycle you get on has the tack zeroed out, pointed straight down. Some of them will have it at a slight angle, but this is the first bike I've ever ridden where the tack's where it's at right now. So if you're used to riding a bike with, you know, like over here on the speedometer, it's bottomed out at 0, and you look at this, you think, holy crap, I'm revving up at 10,000. Oh no, I'm not. I'm at 3,000 RPMs right now. It's a minor thing, but when you're so used to a gauge working a certain way and now it's totally different for absolutely no reason, it kind of bothers you a little bit. But my absolute biggest problem is the screen itself, and the fact that, to me, it's underutilized. If you're using Apple CarPlay, you'll get some use out of it. But, you know, audio, you can basically change the radio station. Same thing with audio setting, though most of this stuff, including your navigation, unless you preset your destination before you left, you can't use it while you're riding. You can't do anything with the vehicle settings. You can't do anything with the phone. So I have this big area that basically just tells me what time it is. What I would have liked to have seen done is allow me some customization on this screen. And when I say customization, remember the stuff I was bothered about over here that I can't see? Why can't I pull that up on that big screen? You know, I've got an analog speedometer over here, which is fine. I can read it. How cool would it be if I could bring it up digitally on that big giant screen? Or maybe even run a digital tack there on that screen. There's so many things that could have been done with this screen, but unfortunately, 99% of the stuff I just named off, you can't do on it. Again, I don't know if that's something they could do a software update. I'm not sure if that's something that even bothers the rest of you guys, but if you're gonna put all this on here, allow it some more functionality. So let me share with you some final thoughts on the bike before we wrap up. If you're gonna be doing major distances and you wanna be comfortable, and you're gonna be doing mostly riding like this, you know, interstates, 4-lane highways, maybe the occasional back roads, this bike should probably be on the top of your list to go test ride and go check out, because it's gonna get you anywhere comfortable. That's exactly what it's gonna do. If you're looking for a really, really fun bike to go out and rip and roar and have a great time on, go look elsewhere. That's not what this bike is for. You know, I'm finding myself asking, if I had the option to ride this on my next cross-country trip, would I? I can't say definitively I would. If you were to ask me to pick a bike to do my next iron butt ride on, and this was an option, I'd probably take it.
All right, guys, so those are my thoughts on the 2018 Honda Goldwing Touring manual transmission model. But you don't have to take my word for it, and that's why, if you're interested in one, I suggest you go ride one yourself. In fact, if you'd like to ride this exact model, it will be available up at Tim Brook Honda throughout most of the rest of the year, available for demo rides. Again, check their information in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, this is the place to be. If you've got any questions about the bike, something I didn't cover, something you may disagree with, let me know down in the comments section below. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.